Hello, everybody. This guide will help you quickly and efficiently memorize 37 yes-no questions and 90 word definitions, which are important aspects of the U.S. citizenship test. Make sure you fully understand the yes-no questions, as the officer will ask them when reviewing your form, and also memorize the word definitions as much as you can. Let's get started.
Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen in writing or any other way?
No.
What is the meaning of claim to be a U.S. citizen? What is the meaning of claim to be a U.S. citizen?
To state you are a U.S. citizen. To state you are a U.S. citizen.
Can you explain claim? Can you explain claim?
To say something is true. To say something is true.
Have you ever registered to vote or voted in any federal, state, or local election in the United States?
No.
Do you know what register means? Do you know what register means?
To sign up. To sign up.
Do you know what vote means? Do you know what vote means?
To elect new leaders. To elect new leaders.
Do you currently owe any overdue federal, state, or local taxes in the United States?
No.
How would you explain owe taxes? How would you explain owe taxes?
To owe the government money. To owe the government money.
What is the definition of overdue? What is the definition of overdue?
Past a deadline. Past a deadline.
What is the meaning of owe? What is the meaning of owe?
To have a debt. To have a debt.
Since you became a lawful permanent resident, have you called yourself a non-resident alien on a federal, state, or local tax return, or decided not to file a tax return because you considered yourself to be a non-resident?
No.
How can you explain non-resident alien? How can you explain non-resident alien?
A person who has not passed the green card test. A person who has not passed the green card test.
Have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with any communist or totalitarian party anywhere in the world?
No.
What is the meaning of a totalitarian party? What is the meaning of a totalitarian party?
Government controls everything, and people have no power. Government controls everything, and people have no power.
Do you know what the Communist Party means? Do you know what the Communist Party means?
Like China, North Korea. Like China, North Korea.
Have you ever advocated, supported, and promoted any of the following, or been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with any group anywhere in the world that advocated any of the following? Opposition to all organized government, world communism, the establishment in the United States of a totalitarian dictatorship, the overthrow by force or violence or other unconstitutional means of the government of the United States or all forms of law, the unlawful assaulting or killing of any officer or officers of the government of the United States or of any other organized government because of their official character, the unlawful damage, injury, or destruction of property or sabotage.
No.
Can you explain advocate? Can you explain advocate?
To support. To support.
What does overthrow mean? What does overthrow mean?
To remove a government from power. To remove a government from power.
Have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with, or have you ever provided money, a thing of value, services, or labor, or any other assistance or support to a group that used a weapon or explosive with intent to harm another person or cause damage to property?
No.
Have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with, or have you ever provided money, a thing of value, services, or labor, or any other assistance or support to a group that engaged or participated in kidnapping, assassination, or hijacking or sabotage of an airplane, ship, vehicle, or other mode of transportation?
No.
What does sabotage mean? What does sabotage mean?
To destroy something. To destroy something.
What is the definition of assassination? What is the definition of assassination?
An action of killing someone. An action of killing someone.
How can you explain kidnap? How can you explain kidnap?
To take someone away illegally. To take someone away illegally.
What is the meaning of hijack? What is the meaning of hijack?
To stop and steal a moving airplane. To stop and steal a moving airplane.
Have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with, or have you ever provided money, a thing of value, services, or labor, or any other assistance or support to a group that threatened, attempted, conspired, prepared, planned, advocated for, or incited others to commit kidnapping, assassination, hijacking, sabotage, or use a weapon or explosives with intent to harm another person or cause damage to a property?
No.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in torture?
No.
What does torture mean? What does torture mean?
To hurt someone physically. To hurt someone physically.
Do you know what incite means? Do you know what incite means?
To encourage. To encourage.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in killing or trying to kill any person?
No.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in genocide?
No.
Can you explain genocide? Can you explain genocide?
To kill a whole race. To kill a whole race.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in any kind of sexual contact or activity with any person who did not consent or was unable to consent or was being forced or threatened by you or by someone else?
No.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in injuring or trying to injure any person intentionally and severely?
No.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in not letting someone practice their religion?
No.
Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in causing harm or suffering to any person because of their race, religion, national origin, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion?
No.
Do you know what national origin means? Do you know what national origin means?
Where a person is from. Where a person is from.
Have you ever served in, been a member of, assisted, or participated in any military or police unit?
No.
What does a military unit mean? What does a military unit mean?
A group works for government. A group works for government.
Can you explain a police unit? Can you explain a police unit?
A group protects community. A group protects community.
Have you ever served in, been a member of, assisted, or participated in any armed group, for example, paramilitary unit, self-defense unit, vigilante unit, rebel group, or guerrilla group?
No.
Do you know what a self-defense unit is? Do you know what a self-defense unit is?
A group protects a place. A group protects a place.
What is the meaning of a paramilitary unit? What is the meaning of a paramilitary unit?
Like a military group, but is not official. Like a military group, but is not official.
What does a rebel group mean? What does a rebel group mean?
A group fights a government. A group fights a government.
What does a vigilante unit mean? What does a vigilante unit mean?
A group acts like the police, but are not the police. A group acts like the police, but are not the police.
Can you explain a guerrilla group? Can you explain a guerrilla group?
A group uses weapons to attack the government. A group uses weapons to attack the government.
Have you ever worked, volunteered, or otherwise served in a place where people were detained? For example, a prison, jail, prison camp, detention facility, or labor camp? Or have you ever directed or participated in any other activity that involved detaining people?
No.
Can you explain what prison means? Can you explain what prison means?
A place where prisoners are kept. A place where prisoners are kept.
Can you explain what detained means? Can you explain what detained means?
Held in custody by police. Held in custody by police.
Do you know what a labor camp is? Do you know what a labor camp is?
A place to force people to work. A place to force people to work.
Can you explain a prison camp? Can you explain a prison camp?
A place to keep enemy soldiers. A place to keep enemy soldiers.
Can you explain jail? Can you explain jail?
A place where prisoners are kept. A place where prisoners are kept.
What is the meaning of a detention facility? What is the meaning of a detention facility?
A place where people are forced to stay. A place where people are forced to stay.
Were you ever a part of any group, or did you ever help any group, unit, or organization that used a weapon against any person or threatened to do so?
No.
How can you explain a weapon? How can you explain a weapon?
Like a knife or gun. Like a knife or gun.
What does threaten mean? What does threaten mean?
To warn to hurt someone. To warn to hurt someone.
When you were part of this group, or when you helped this group, did you ever use a weapon against another person?
No.
When you were part of this group, or when you helped this group, did you ever threaten another person that you would use a weapon against that person?
No.
Have you ever received any weapons training, paramilitary training, or other military-type training?
No.
Can you explain paramilitary training? Can you explain paramilitary training?
Learning to fight in combat. Learning to fight in combat.
What is the definition of weapons training? What is the definition of weapons training?
To learn how to use a gun. To learn how to use a gun.
Do you know what military-type training is? Do you know what military-type training is?
Learning to fight in combat. Learning to fight in combat.
Have you ever sold, provided, or transported weapons, or assisted any person in selling, providing, or transporting weapons which you knew or believed would be used against another person?
No.
Have you ever recruited, enlisted, conscripted, or used any person under 15 years of age to serve in or help an armed group, or attempted or worked with others to do so?
No.
What does recruit mean? What does recruit mean?
To ask. To ask.
What is the definition of conscript? What is the definition of conscript?
To require someone to join the army. To require someone to join the army.
How can you explain enlist? How can you explain enlist?
To sign up in the armed forces. To sign up in the armed forces.
Have you ever used any person under 15 years of age to take part in hostilities, or attempted or worked with others to do so?
No.
What is the meaning of hostilities? What is the meaning of hostilities?
Fighting in a war. Fighting in a war.
Have you ever committed, agreed to commit, asked someone else to commit, helped commit, or tried to commit a crime or offense for which you are not arrested?
No.
And how can you explain crime? And how can you explain crime?
An action that breaks the law. An action that breaks the law.
What is the definition of arrested? What is the definition of arrested?
Handcuffed by the police. Handcuffed by the police.
What is the meaning of offense? What is the meaning of offense?
A minor crime. A minor crime.
Do you know what it means to commit a crime? Do you know what it means to commit a crime?
To do something that breaks the law. To do something that breaks the law.
Have you ever been arrested, cited, detained, or confined by any law enforcement officer, military official in the U.S. or elsewhere, or immigration official for any reason, or been charged with a crime or offense?
No.
What does cited mean? What does cited mean?
Given a ticket by police. Given a ticket by police.
What does charge mean? What does charge mean?
Police tell you that you did something illegal. Police tell you that you did something illegal.
What does confined mean? What does confined mean?
To be kept in a place. To be kept in a place.
If you received a suspended sentence, were placed on probation, or were paroled, have you completed your suspended sentence, probation, or parole? What is the meaning of parole? What is the meaning of parole?
The early release of a prisoner. The early release of a prisoner.
How can you explain suspended sentence? How can you explain suspended sentence?
Delaying of a sentence. Delaying of a sentence.
What does probation mean? What does probation mean?
You report to an officer regularly instead of jail time. You report to an officer regularly instead of jail time.
Have you ever engaged in prostitution, attempted to procure or import prostitutes or persons for the purpose of prostitution, or received any proceeds or money from prostitution?
No.
How can you explain procure? How can you explain procure?
To find someone for sex. To find someone for sex.
What does prostitute mean? What does prostitute mean?
Someone who has sex for money. Someone who has sex for money.
Have you ever manufactured, cultivated, produced, distributed, dispensed, sold, or smuggled any controlled substances, illegal drugs, narcotics, or drug paraphernalia in violation of any law or regulation of a U.S. state, the United States, or a foreign country?
No.
Do you know what manufacture means? Do you know what manufacture means?
To make something. To make something.
What does distribute mean? What does distribute mean?
To supply something. To supply something.
What is the meaning of cultivate? What is the meaning of cultivate?
To grow plants. To grow plants.
How can you explain dispense? How can you explain dispense?
To supply something. To supply something.
Do you know what produce means? Do you know what produce means?
To make something. To make something.
Do you know what controlled substances means? Do you know what controlled substances means?
You can buy it with a prescription, but with restrictions. You can buy it with a prescription, but with restrictions.
Can you explain what drug paraphernalia refers to? Can you explain what drug paraphernalia refers to?
Equipment to make illegal drugs. Equipment to make illegal drugs.
What is the meaning of smuggle? What is the meaning of smuggle?
To take things to a country illegally. To take things to a country illegally.
How would you explain illegal drugs or narcotics? How would you explain illegal drugs or narcotics?
Like heroin or cocaine. Like heroin or cocaine.
Have you ever married someone in order to obtain an immigration benefit?
No.
What does an immigration benefit mean? What does an immigration benefit mean?
Things like a visa, green card, or citizenship. Things like a visa, green card, or citizenship.
Have you ever been married to more than one person at the same time?
No.
Have you ever helped anyone to enter or try to enter the United States illegally?
No.
Have you ever failed to support your dependents or to pay alimony?
No.
How can you explain dependent? How can you explain dependent?
Someone who relies on another person. Someone who relies on another person.
What is the meaning of pay alimony? What is the meaning of pay alimony?
To pay money to ex-spouse after a divorce. To pay money to ex-spouse after a divorce.
Have you ever gambled illegally or received income from illegal gambling?
No.
What does gamble mean? What does gamble mean?
To play a game for money. To play a game for money.
Have you ever made any misrepresentation to obtain any public benefit in the United States?
No.
What does misrepresentation mean? What does misrepresentation mean?
To lie or give wrong information. To lie or give wrong information.
How can you explain public benefit? How can you explain public benefit?
Welfare, like food stamps. Welfare, like food stamps.
Have you ever given any U.S. government officials any information or documentation that was false, fraudulent, or misleading?
No.
Do you know what misleading is? Do you know what misleading is?
Giving the wrong idea. Giving the wrong idea.
What is the meaning of false? What is the meaning of false?
Not true. Not true.
What is the definition of fraudulent? What is the definition of fraudulent?
To claim something that is not true. To claim something that is not true.
Have you ever lied to any U.S. government officials to gain entry or admission into the United States, or to gain immigration benefits while in the United States?
No.
Can you explain what lie means? Can you explain what lie means?
To say something that is not true. To say something that is not true.
What is the meaning of admission into the United States? What is the meaning of admission into the United States?
The right to enter the United States. The right to enter the United States.
Have you ever been placed in removal, rescission, or deportation proceedings?
No.
What does rescission mean? What does rescission mean?
To take back a decision. To take back a decision.
How can you explain deportation proceedings? How can you explain deportation proceedings?
Process of removing a person. Process of removing a person.
Have you ever been removed or deported from the United States?
No.
Do you know what deport means? Do you know what deport means?
To force a person to leave a country. To force a person to leave a country.
Are you a person born as a male who lived in the United States at any time between your 18th and 26th birthdays?
No.
Did you register for the Selective Service?
No.
How can you explain Selective Service? How can you explain Selective Service?
Services in armed forces under law. Services in armed forces under law.
Have you ever left the United States to avoid being drafted in the U.S. Armed Forces?
No.
What is the meaning of drafted? What is the meaning of drafted?
Being selected as a soldier. Being selected as a soldier.
What does avoid being drafted mean? What does avoid being drafted mean?
To prevent being selected as a soldier. To prevent being selected as a soldier.
Have you ever applied for any kind of exemption from military service in the U.S. Armed Forces?
No.
Can you explain what the U.S. Armed Forces are? Can you explain what the U.S. Armed Forces are?
U.S. Military, Navy, Air Force. U.S. Military, Navy, Air Force.
Have you ever served in the U.S. Armed Forces?
No.
Do you now have, or did you ever have a hereditary title or an order of nobility in any foreign country?
No.
What does hereditary title mean? What does hereditary title mean?
A royal title, like prince or princess. A royal title, like prince or princess.
What is the meaning of order of nobility? What is the meaning of order of nobility?
Like king or queen. Like king or queen.
Do you understand the full oath of allegiance to the United States?
Yes.
What is the definition of the oath of allegiance? What is the definition of the oath of allegiance?
A promise to be loyal to the United States. A promise to be loyal to the United States.
Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States?
Yes.
How can you explain the Constitution? How can you explain the Constitution?
It is the supreme law of the land. It is the supreme law of the land.
What does the form of government of the United States mean? What does the form of government of the United States mean?
Republic. Republic.
Are you unable to take the oath of allegiance because of a physical or developmental disability or mental impairment?
No.
If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States?
Yes.
How can you explain what it means to bear arms? How can you explain what it means to bear arms?
To own or use a gun. To own or use a gun.
Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States?
Yes.
If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces?
Yes.
What is the meaning of non-combatant services? What is the meaning of non-combatant services?
Services that do not involve combat. Services that do not involve combat.
If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction?
Yes.
Can you explain what civilian is? Can you explain what civilian is?
A person who is not in the military. A person who is not in the military.
What is the definition of civilian direction? What is the definition of civilian direction?
A direction from a person who is not in the military. A direction from a person who is not in the military.
What does work of national importance mean? What does work of national importance mean?
Tasks that are important to a nation. Tasks that are important to a nation.